Hi everyone, it's Adam Cockburn here at Lowe Co Realty. Thanks for checking in. Today we're looking at the Wellington Market data for the month of July 2020 compared to the month of July 2019 for the Wellington region. And in summary, there's no sign of a slowdown. The level of stock is extremely tight indeed, and this tight supply is continuing to drive a seller's market. I have to say there are a couple of anomalies in the data which do suggest perhaps a slight slowing down of the market, but on the front line here, us agents at Lowe Co at least are not seeing that. So let's get into it. Firstly, the number of new listings in July 2020, 573 versus 482. Now this is the first time we've seen a significant increase in the number of new listings for a month since 12 months prior. In the last sort of 6 months or so at least, it's been the other way around. So this is an interesting turnaround, a 19% increase in the number of new stock coming on, and it would seem that the same is happening in August as well. We're seeing quite a lot of new stock coming to the market this month as well. So this is good news for buyers. I mean, overall, it's still a low level of new listings coming on compared to historical norms, but certainly compared to 12 months ago, it's an increase of 19%. So yeah, as I say, good news for buyers. On the price side of things, median sale price, we've continued to see about a 10, 8, 9, 11%, 12% median sale price increase when compared to 12 months ago. Obviously the median sale price, not the perfect measure of true underlying value. And if you look here at the blue graphs, you see that the last 3 months, definitely the median sale price is a bit lower than the 3 months previous. Still, it's 12 months, since 12 months ago, it's up 11%, 696,800 versus 630,000. But is that last 3 months compared to the previous 3 months, is that a sign of a trend? We will see, time will tell. And what I've actually done here is I've dug in also to the house price index, which is meant to be more of a true reflection of the underlying value of the homes as opposed to the numbers being influenced by what value houses are selling. In other words, if really expensive houses sell more in 1 month than another, then that will bring the average sale price for that month up. But what the house price index does is it tries to analyse that and actually suggest what is the true underlying value. So it's theoretically at least a better indicator of true underlying value. And if you look here at the Wellington numbers, you can see in the last month, all of the Wellington areas have been performing very well. Wellington City, Lower Hutt, Upper Hutt, Porirua, and in fact the more regional locations, Porirua and Upper Hutt, have done better than Lower Hutt and Wellington City in the last month. In the last 3 months, we actually see some price drops, according to this measure, in the city, in Lower Hutt, and in Wellington overall. And indeed, in the last 5 years, as you can see, Wellington City has not performed as well as the more affordable locations in the Hutt Valley and Porirua. So that's interesting, and we'll see as time evolves how that pattern changes. In terms of how long it's taken to sell a house, 29 days versus 33 in July 2019. So again, this is a continued tightening of the market. This indicates that houses obviously selling very quickly, down 12%. So that is certainly suggestive of a continued very, very strong market. How many sales are we seeing monthly? And this is again an interesting stat, 764 in July 2020 versus 622 in July 2019, a considerable increase of 23%. Is that because there's been slightly more new listings coming to the market in July? Perhaps we have seen a general slowing down of the number of sales each month. And I have been saying that I don't think that is suggestive of the fact that there is less demand, but perhaps more indicative that there has been less available to purchase, and therefore the numbers have been dropping. But certainly this month or last month in July, we've seen an increase compared to July 2019, a considerable increase of 23, so more properties have been selling. Number of weeks worth of inventory, 10 weeks worth of inventory compared to July 2019 of 9 weeks. That's a bit of an increase of 11%. And the numbers, I can't help but think, are still being somehow slightly influenced by the COVID lockdown situation. And I have to say, I don't quite understand how this number is. It doesn't feel to me like we are increasing the amount of inventory. It feels like we're actually decreasing the amount of inventory. And so I have actually emailed the data suppliers here trying to understand more fully how that statistic comes about, because it doesn't seem right to me. And anyway, hopefully next month, if I have had an explanation, I'll be able to expand on that. So I thought it might be interesting for you to have a look also at the inventory of listings around the whole country as opposed to just Wellington, to see is it just Wellington that's tight, or is it the whole country that's tight? And as you can see here, it's pretty much the whole country that is tight. So nationwide, we've got 18 weeks worth of supply versus a long-term average of 28 weeks. And the situation is even more pronounced in most or many of the more regional locations outside of the main centres. Typically these regional locations have more supply or a larger amount of inventory on the market than in the main city. So if we look, for example, at the Wairarapa, the long-term average in terms of the amount of inventory on the market in the Wairarapa is 63 weeks worth of supply on the market. Well, in July, the Wairarapa had 7 weeks worth of supply. So that is 90% reduction over the long-term average. This is eye-wateringly tight, and the same is true of many of the regional, more regional locations outside of the cities. And so I'm wondering why that is the case, in particular in those locations. Perhaps it is because the lockdown has I don't know, concerned people or frightened people and made them think they want to pursue more of a lifestyle, and so they're looking outside of the cities into a more lifestyle location, and maybe they're thinking they can work from home more and only come into the city a couple of times a week. But very interesting to see that these regional locations, compared to what the long-term averages in those locations, their markets are very much tighter even than in the cities. In Wellington City, 10 weeks worth of supply versus the long-term average of 16. I mean, that's about 40% undersupplied compared to the norm, but at some of these other locations we're 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% undersupplied. So the situation is by no means just a city phenomenon. So back to the numbers again. The number of Trade Me listings on the market in August, a couple of days ago now, 1,272 in Wellington region versus 1,469 in August 2019. So while we saw more new listings come to the market recently, and we've also seen more sales recently, so the overall number of properties available on the main websites has actually continued to trend downwards. Now, I did drill into this a little further. I haven't got the data in front of you right now, but just for interest sakes, the numbers in Wellington City are about the same in August as they were in July, but the numbers on Trade Me for the Hutt Valley, Pororua and the Wairarapa are significantly reduced compared to June. So those markets are tightening even more than the city, which is consistent with what we were just talking about before in terms of regional levels of inventory. So also, this is a question that many people have got, I'm sure, is that the New Zealand economy has been in recession. I presume we're now out of the recession, but the property market is remaining extremely strong, and how can that be? And it's interesting to note that the New Zealand market is not the only one behaving strangely. And so this graph here shows in the UK the GDP growth, and so you can see way back there in 2008, that's the GFC, where GDP was shrinking by 1-3% per quarter for 4 or 5 quarters in a row, and then many years of sort of normal 1-2% growth. And then in the lockdown, we saw in quarter one, sort of a 2.5% shrinkage in GDP, and then in quarter two, a whopping over 20% shrinkage in GDP. This is a massive recession here, a huge contraction in the size of the economy. And then the next slide here, you can see that they are now actually back in recovery mode, but they've got a long way to go before they make up for that loss. Now, in the face of that extreme contraction in the economy, the UK market and property market has reached new highs in July. So very interesting that I was assuming that perhaps New Zealand's property market is remaining buoyant because our immigration remains strong as Kiwis are flooding back home because we're safe. UK is of course not as safe as New Zealand, but it still seems that the property market there is strengthening. How is this happening? It doesn't really make sense. Perhaps people are feeling the need to have a base, be more secure, So they've got a nest, if you like, that they can hole up in if indeed we do go back into lockdown. It's making people feel like they want to put their roots down even more than previously. Who knows, but it's certainly counterintuitive to what I think most people were expecting to have happened 3 or 4 months ago when we went into lockdown. So interesting times, we'll keep a track on that and see what happens. So in summary, we are seeing more listings come up in the last month, and it seems to be the same in August compared to 12 months ago. Is price growth in Wellington slowing? Maybe. Let's keep an eye on that thing. On that, I have to say that on the front line, us agents are not seeing prices slowing. It doesn't feel that way to us, but the data, I suppose, can't lie. So let's see what that says in the coming months. Duration to sell is remaining low, and in fact lower than 12 months ago. Sales volumes have increased. Stock levels are the lowest I've ever seen on the main websites. It's eye-wateringly tight. And in summary, there's no market pain from COVID so far, except I have to say for buyers, the lines outside open homes are long. It's definitely hard work for buyers out there, and the long-term fundamentals remain strong for property, even though the market is continuing to be hot and prices are high. And I've been saying that for the last several months, and I continue to say that this month the long-term fundamentals remain strong. If you are in a buying mode, if you find something that suits you, don't hold back. Continue to make the purchase. I'm Lowe Co. I'm Adam from Lowe Co. Thanks for checking in. If you need any help, sing out. You know how to find me. Check in next month. Thank you very much.